Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's awesome. Great. Thanks for coming today. So this is going to jump right into it. We're going to stare at this image for about 5 more seconds, and then we're going to stare at this. Those are pretty. And we're going to look at this. Right. Wow. All those things had in common is like, wow, they're the one thing standing in the way of diversity in tech. Pipes. Who would have thunk it? So welcome to Diversity, Pipelines, College Alumni, and You. Wow, I'm glad I have that written out because I would not remember that title and I made it up. So here's the things that I hope you walk away with. One, kind of a new perspective into recruiting new grads, entry-level positions at your organization/company, and 2, resources and organizations that will help you connect with underrepresented students. I do not want this to be a kind of a lecture because I am not a lecturer. I want this to be very conversational, and I want you to be able to walk away with actual tangible things of like, oh, I can actually like do that after I leave. I think a lot of times we get stuck in the mud when we talk about the dreaded D word, diversity. That usually ends up to be a lot of talking, but not a lot of doing, call to actions, walkaways. So my name is Stephen Hardge. I am a user experience designer at the University of Michigan, and I'm also a graduating master's student. I was graduating in this April. I also worked 4 years for this little startup, which has now failed. I think it's fair to say, called Block. It was a professional networking organization that aimed at connecting Black college students to professional networking opportunities. Basically, the mission was to reduce the unemployment rate for Black college grads. So, I've been in this space for at least professionally for a couple years now. Cool. Right. The bane of the bane of our existence. Pipes. So when we talk, we hear this word a lot being in the tech space of this mythical pipeline of being can we really blame the pipelines for this reason on why we can't and why there isn't diversity in tech, right? So the idea is that there aren't enough qualified, air quotes, Black, Latino, Hispanic, and Native students, or women, coming through the pipeline in order for organizations to hire. But really, are they really to blame? Yes and no. Yes and no. I'd be telling you a bold-faced lie if I told you that there isn't a significant underrepresentation of women and minorities groups involved in tech and STEM programs at the K through 12 level and at the undergraduate level. I'd be lying if I tell you if I didn't say that. However, right, the way the pipeline rhetoric is kind of used, it's really kind of like a bait and switch, right? So like when Charlie Brown tries to get the ball and always has the football it's just taken from under him. But except it's really kind of like this. Where he's perpetually stuck in the state of trying to kick the ball and missing, to the point where there's no. It doesn't ever really seem like there's a position or a move for the pipeline to actually be fixed. So essentially, what I mean by that is that companies will keep saying that pipeline is an issue, but they won't do anything about it. And if they won't do anything about it, then they can keep reporting that to an issue, pointing that to be the issue. So what is the truth, right? What is really going on here? So here's what we know, right? Underrepresented minorities, and by that I mean Black, Latino, Hispanic, and Native American communities are disproportionately unemployed and underemployed. And by underemployed, I mean that people that for example, a black person with similar qualifications and capability as a white counterpart is more than likely not in a lower skilled position. It is more likely than not in a lower skilled position compared to their white counterpart. So they have the skills, but for whatever reason, instead of being the junior software developer, they're tech support, right? Have the same degrees, learn the same thing, but different positions. These are the only numbers. I did not want to load this. That's another issue with diversity presentations, is people start throwing numbers at you, and people really don't care about numbers. So these are the only numbers that you're going to see. But anyways, 8.6% black, right? So that's the representation of black. These numbers are from 2015. These are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. In the computer and math workforce, it's 8% black, right? And just as another preface, you add black, or these numbers are black and Hispanic, but if you add women onto it too, basically cut those numbers in half, if not more, right? So it gets really worse once we start crossing those, intersecting those identities. 6.8% for Hispanics, so very similar. When we get to computer science and engineering grads, 8% Hispanic, 6% black. Again, once you start intersecting it with women, even worse. But for whatever reason, right? Here is a list of the 25 most wanted new grad alumni in 2017 tech. So basically, for new grad hires, these are the list of the 25 schools that sent the most grads to Silicon Valley. That may or may not have relevance to us here in the Midwest in Chicago, but just let's take a look at this, right? So we have some very clear, obvious, links, right? So a bunch of California schools, so Berkeley, Stanford, USC, San Jose State, San Diego, right? So so a lot of these are, especially the ones near the top, a lot of them have that proximity. The others just happen to be top, and again, air quotes in the top programs, top CS and engineering programs, right? So there's a really strong correlation with one of those schools. Hey, look, even my school is up there, number 17, University of Michigan. I can tell you for a fact that I could probably, in my master's cohort, which is about somewhere between, I think, 300 and 350 people, and this is just master students, I am one of probably less than, I could probably count all of the black people, men and women, on both of my hands. Probably one hand, right? So the idea is here, obviously, when we're looking at these two numbers right here, right, these numbers aren't completely coming from just these schools. However, these schools also aren't serving the majority of underrepresented and minority CS and engineering grads, and I know that that's not the surefire way into getting into the tech industry or a software development role. However, that's kind of it's the most atypical, right, or the most typical one. So let's put it all together, right? And we're going to reach a point here where we kind of stop and have a conversation, because, like I said, I want it to be very conversational. Let's assume that we're going to the store, right, to hire some grads because we need a job filled, right? So we're going to Kroger. If you don't like Kroger, too bad. So we're going to Kroger, and we go to the candy aisle because this is where the job hires are, right? So we're trying to find a talent pool of potential candidates for one or more positions, and this is kind of what we think we're going to end up with, right? That should look like this, right? These is what our potential pool of candidates should look like. You have the original, you have the tropical, you have the sour, you have the sweet and sour. I didn't know they had the sweet and sour. And the wild berry, right? very good collection and assortment of a diverse talent pool, right? But instead, in reality, it typically ends up looking like this, right? So these are like, what are these? I think these are like, they came up with some spicy ones. It's weird. I was Googling. It's like, they have spicy Skittles. Anyways, it's an allegory. It's all an allegory, right? So these are typically what the, the talent pool usually ends up look like. These are the applications that end up getting put into the pool. And that, it's not your fault. This is, I really don't want this to come off as any sort of confrontational or accusatory, but, there are reasons why in reality, when recruiters go through standardized or go through a normal or typical recruiting process, that their talent pool usually ends up looking like red, orange, and yellow Skittles. Now, again, pictures may be deceiving. So at the bottom of this stack might be a blue Skittle. Who knows, right? Because because by the time they get to that blue Skittle, they probably got 3 other people at different stages of the interview process. So the idea here is to get to this, and let me not mince words or sell dreams, right? We're not going to get like an equal representation where we have, in a pool of 100 candidates, we're going to get 10 blue Skittles and 10 green Skittles and 10, where it's all equitable, right? But surely we can sort of try to work towards something that doesn't look like this. And so kind of bringing it back all together, how does maybe this ends up having to do something with the store that we're going to, right? Typically, what I found in my experience is that, and we see it here, right? If people keep going to UC Berkeley or Georgia Tech or Stanford or Texas A&M or University of Illinois, they keep going to the same Kroger where every time their talent pool ends up looking like this, then that's how we get 1% black employees, 2% Hispanic employees, 10% women employees, right? That's how we end up getting this, right? So, anybody, hiring managers or anybody who's ever done any hiring in the room?
Interviewing count?
Yes, interviewing does count. Okay. Have you, in the back, I hate to put you on the spot since you said you were the only hiring manager. Do you have any, any thoughts that come to mind as you kind of sit and listen? You feel free to say that.
I need to know this though. We're a tiny little worker-owned cooperative, so it's not like we do, like posting somehow in the Drupal world that we're actually looking for people would be like a big step in us towards actually advertising our services. So mostly it's like having some clue better ways to do it that doesn't bias us towards, towards white males or people who've had more, chances to, like I have to, not even graduate in the right thing and then go out and do tech, which is a lot of people in Drupal. So my only thoughts are like, tell me where to look, I might need to know how to go through a hiring process and those kind of things also, but that's unfortunately where I am.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any comments?
A colleague of mine pointed out that because hiring tends to favor people who already have connections within the company, it inherently makes it less diverse because people are usually friends with others who are already like them and have similar backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some of those, and one of those end groups tends up being people who also went to your alma mater. I know it for a fact. University of Michigan has like the largest alumni base in the world. Go Blue. So like it's totally like one of those things where it's understandable because so much of it happens unconsciously, right? Because you're not thinking, oh, I'm about to go back to my college or the specific program that I graduated from, and I'm going to throw them a bone, right? Because I remember, everybody remembers what it was like coming out of college and going through the job search process, perhaps for the first time ever, and realizing how difficult that was. And part of being part of a strong alumni base or alumni network is connecting with current students at your alma mater. So we don't really think of like, oh, when I send an email back to this listserv of current and past students, or of current students and alumni, it's like, hey, I work at this company. We're currently hiring. Please reach out to me if you're interested. We don't think of like, well, wow, my program only has like, 10 black people in it right now. It only has 20 Hispanic people in it right now. So we really don't think of kind of like the demographics of our programs when we go back specifically to recruit. Now, I do not say that to say don't ever go back to your alma mater to recruit. I'm not saying don't ever share those opportunities with people within your network. But we're going to talk about kind of the ways we can avoid that, right? So how do we get the rest of the Skittles? How do we get those blue Skittles, right? I love blue Skittles. Fun fact, I was actually going to do the Skittle analogy with Starburst. However, I do think people feel just a quite big tad strongly about their preferred Starburst, which I felt it might would have hit just a bit too close to home because I am preferential to pink Starburst. But some people might have felt weird about that. It's like, what do you mean? Okay, how do we get there? Magic. Okay, not really. First, there is no way to do this without being intentional. There is a lot of, kind of conversation and discussion around, like, oh, well, we're just not going to give, we just can't give these jobs to minorities or to women as kind of like a handout. Like, they can't be like affirmative action. They can't be quotas, right? Because then we're not getting the best candidate. There's no way to do this. One, this has really nothing of this has to do with the actual interviewing process, but more rather the recruitment process. Is how do you get more people into the recruitment process? And there's no way to do this without being intentional, which means, what that means is, and this is 0 instead of 1, because you have to kind of understand this before we even get to the other parts. You have to seek these out. Like you have to set aside time to go out and intentionally try to access these resources. And there's no way you're going to do that without being intentional. It's just not going to fall into your lap. So the first one, like we already mentioned, avoid your alma mater, try somewhere else, like an HBCU. Does anybody not know what an HBCU is? Oh, thank you. Wait, are you guys lying to me? It's okay. It's really okay. If you're not from the South, you probably don't know what an HBCU is. Okay. So a HBCU stands for this historically black college or university. So back when the United States government said, you Negroes can't come to our schools, well, the Negroes made their own schools. And there's a lot of them that still exist. And not only that, HBCUs are actually constitute a lot of the professional type of graduates. So a lot of STEM schools, right? So where to find them? Wow, I have it listed and bullet pointed for you, right? If you need these links after, please stop me after. I'd be happy to email these resources to you. Hispanic serving institutions. Didn't know those existed either, did you? Right? There's actually one here. It's I think the University of Chicago is a UIC.
Not UIC. UIC.
Yeah.
University of Illinois.
Yeah, University of Illinois Chicago. I always get that. It's always confusing. University of Illinois Chicago. Yeah, is a Hispanic serving institution. And then we have MSIs, or minority serving institutions. So these are schools that aren't necessarily, well, let me say, so HBCUs and Hispanic serving institutions are federal designations that means these schools were specifically founded with a purpose. And minority serving institutions are schools that have over a 50% minority enrollment. This is where this is Chicago State. Yeah, Chicago State is a minority serving institution because it is very, very, very diverse. So boom. Next time you're thinking, wow, we're in the Midwest, we're in Chicago, if your company's based in Chicago, where's a job fair we could go to? Maybe one of these schools. You can use this as a resource to figure out where to go. 2, minority serving professional organizations. So, where to find them? What kinds of them? National Society of Black Engineers, the National Society of Blacks in Computing, Black Data Processing Associates, Tech Year, which I should have labeled that, but that's for Latin tech, or Hispanics in tech, or Latinos in tech, and then Women in Technology. So these are all professional organizations intended to serve these specific groups in the realm of tech space, right? So not only do they have conferences, but they have a incredibly diverse membership and role of membership that is just waiting to be tapped into. 2.5, minority serving professional conferences. So of course, obviously, I think I said all of these more likely than not have conferences, if not annually, periodically. Maybe go there, set up a booth, become a sponsor. There's also some other general tech conferences here, right? So there's Black Tech Week that's based out of Florida. There's Afro Tech in California. There's Latino Tech in California. Here in the Midwest, you have the Midwest Women in Tech. They have their conference here in Chicago. And then the PBWC, which is Professional Business Women Conference. I think I said that right. I think I remembered that right. But anyways, the idea here is that there are tons and tons, literally you could just Google women tech conferences and you can probably find a bunch by region, a bunch by state, where they're meeting, when they're meeting, and maybe that's a way to kind of pitch to somebody in HR. It's like, hey, maybe we should sponsor this conference, or maybe we should go to recruit there. 3, word of mouth is your friend. Social media is too. I can tell you right now, I probably have no less than 2 Slack channels, 4 GroupMe's, 2 Facebook groups, and even a Discord channel or 2 that's centered around young Black professionals.
Go.
Basically, I think it's not something that honestly, I can only really speak from the perspective of my Black lived experience. But Black people, Black millennials, we network like crazy. And we do we do informal networking like crazy. And when I tell you, we share jobs and opportunities like it's nobody's business. Simply because we know how hard it is to find these opportunities. And there's actually research on this as well, as Blacks and Hispanics we don't find, like, we're more likely to find jobs and opportunities this way because we're not connected to those kind of resources, to like regular job boards and things like that, just because nobody told us about them, you know. So much, disproportionately first generation college students are minorities, and if nobody's there to tell you how to navigate the system, then, you know, we have to figure out a way through our own ways.
There's kind of a corollary to that too, because there's also back channels. So like if your company is like, you know, habitually lowballing people, or like there's a you know, sexual harassment incidents that constantly get brushed over by like upper management or something like that, there are people out there that are sharing that information with each other. And, you know, that's like kind of a survival thing, but you should be like aware that, you know, you can't get away with some of those kind of things without it like hurting your reputation out there, and maybe like you think you have a pipeline issue, but maybe you actually have a serious upper management issue that you need to address. Yeah. So I think that's kind of a correlated.
Yeah. And of course, I wasn't going to leave you hanging, right? So your personal and professional network. This can be, you know, sharing a job posting on Facebook, sharing a job posting on LinkedIn. Listen, you can even reach out to, like, you know, if you do have, you know, somebody, if you do have a colleague, right, who's Black or Latino or Hispanic or Native American, right? Like, reach out to them. Like, do you have any networks that serve, that serve people with your identity? And they'll be more than happy. It's like, please, we're looking to get more diverse candidates in the pipeline. Please share this through your network. Like, I've gotten people, like, I remember I got somebody a job. I was like, I got somebody a job at Uber. Just through, I've never met the recruiter a day in my life. I never met the person who got the job a day in my life. I saw the job posting on Twitter. They said, "Hey, we're looking to increase, or we're looking to get this job posting in front of diverse faces." I was like, "Got it." I shared it in one group me. I said, "This is the person that you email." 2 weeks later, the recruiter reaches out. I was like, "Hey, thanks for referencing." I don't remember the name because I never met the person a day in my life. And he said, "Thanks for recruiting, or thanks for referencing them. They're just going through the interview process right now." 3 weeks later, it's like, "Hey, we made the hire. Thanks a lot." Right? It literally happens as simple as that. Those loose connections, even just based on identity, can be really strong in so many cases. If you're on Twitter, and again, I really hate that so much of this is centered on a Black focus. So that is definitely my bias. But on Twitter, there is Black Creatives Jobs and hashtag Rainy Day Jobs. Both of those are pretty popular hashtags in which you can share job opportunities that will, at least you'll be able to find Black and Afro-Latino candidates for those kind of jobs. For minority serving talent agencies, this one's actually really hard. The only one that I was aware of before I really did my research on this was JobWell. I've had JobWell reach out to me. Again, basically all they do is they just seek out diverse talent for companies, and they specifically serve Black, Latino, and Native American populations. So if you're looking at, kind of diversifying or increasing that outreach for your company's job posting, JobWell is definitely one. And there's also diversity.com. I've never engaged with diversity.com. However, from a very cursory glance, it also serves the same purpose. And 5, not involved in hiring, advocate for these anyways. Try to get involved in hiring, right? You know, if you're talking, you know, if your company has an internship program, advocate for, you know, try to get on the committee, advocate for it that way. Bring it up to HR. Like, I felt there's so many, even though, you know, we go back to the original of how much this has to be intentional, it's not impossible to find. I think it's really important to kind of remind ourselves of that. And that's it. I told myself I was going to find a way to fit a Dave Chappelle gif in this, and I did. That's it. How do you feel?
I have a question about, so I work with college-age students and helping them find careers, specifically kind of all over the place, but in technology. And a big barrier that I find our students face, and we serve 99% students of color, is the grade piece. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we have a lot of students who are at UIC or based here in Chicago or even at U of I, which is like number 9 on the list. Mostly, I mean, all those schools were predominantly white institutions, which we need to address. But oftentimes our students are working while they're in school, so they may not have like a 3.5.
The grades suck.
And so that is a hard stop if you're not at the school and you don't have the grades, but they're not looking at, you know, the other, like that they are holding 2 jobs while in school or whatever it is. Do you have any sort of insight?
Yeah. So my response to that is it really goes into having, and you know, you may not be positioning in with companies or to kind of have this conversation, but it really goes to asking ourselves, or asking, you know, internally, what really does the 3.0 mean? And can we tie those things to job performance? Are they indicative of quality hires? Is there any other metric or indication by which we can, you know, you see colleges do this for their admissions. It's like, oh, well, you know, you didn't have a 3.89 out of high school. However, you know, you were the captain of the basketball team. You were the president of the key club. I mean, like, they add those intangibles and those holistic metrics kind of to involved in their process. And this is really something, it's not the fault of the companies, because that's really kind of indicative of those specific institutions and the resources they provide on underrepresented students. So it is a hard barrier to get over. However, it's a conversation you have to have with people making these hiring policies, and really, what is a 3.0? You know, I hope that answers your question, or it helps a little bit.
People will be like, "Yeah, great idea. But we're not going to change."
It's hard, and it's like, oh well, because then it gets to the point, it's like, oh, well, now we're not hiring, we're lowering our standards, right? We're lowering our standards. But I was like, when's the last time you were in college? Like, 3.0 really doesn't mean anything, right? Now, I'm not saying you hire people on, you hire people on academic probation, but you know, surely we have there's some middle ground to meet here. But yeah, I totally get it. So you had your hand in there.
Yeah, so I work for University of Chicago, and we have a fairly big IT department. I think like 500 people. It's a formidable IT department. Everybody there is excellent, but I think we're blessed there because it's as rainbow as it gets in there. So we have some of everybody. I think I want to speak to the intentional aspects of things. The university itself has, we focus on civic engagement. So it's in Hyde Park and Woodlawn, and so they make sure that they impact the community of Hyde Park and Woodlawn and all the way down to South Shore. And the effect of it is like what you see when it comes to, when you go to the hospital, when it comes to the IT department, you see all nations working together, and it's possible, and I think for me, if that wasn't the case, if I used to work in Portland, Oregon, granted that there wasn't much diversity in Portland, Oregon, if I worked at a place that was not diverse, I would make a lot of noise and maybe they'd fire me. But I think we have to. That whole we have to be intentional thing has to be like a motto, like maybe tattooed somewhere.
It does.
It has to be an intentional thing because there's so much talent out there that people get discouraged, whether it's their GPA or whether they just feel like, hey, my skin tone is just hindering me. People get discouraged that you leave tech and go elsewhere. And I just want to applaud everyone that's talked about being intentional about it because I really identify with that. I'm grateful for where I work because I can relate to all sorts of people that if I was at an all-black firm or an all-white firm, I wouldn't have that opportunity to interact with. So, good job.
Thank you.
I'm just going to tag along with that. I work at one of the universities you had up there, and we're in the middle of upstate New York. So, you know, diversity up there is kind of limited except for the students they bring in. But the university has really been intentional with their plans, and there's a Alliance for Diversity and Inclusion that runs an internship program every summer, and that's their purpose, is to get diverse students into Central IT to come in and work with us so they get that experience. But they also have students from other universities that come too, so it is an intentional thing that Cornell's trying to do. Not only for our, in fact, we would love to have these students stay and work with us, but they don't want to stay in upstate New York. You know, they want to go to California, but it's happening. And I think for anybody here who has a university that is struggling with that, or as an alum of a university, contact them. They want you as an alum to speak well of your university because they want you to promote it. And it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional.
Yeah. I think the last one.
That mention of like GPA really struck me because I didn't really have a very good GPA myself. But like, when we're talking about like the jobs coming and checking out schools, like that's like a certain tier of employers that are actually like going out and like doing college recruiting. And there's so many like smaller companies in tech that you might have to seek out. And I think it's like really important for anybody who's at college age to know that like not all jobs ask about your GPA. It's probably gonna be like your first couple of jobs, and then nobody will ask about it. You know, in the future, it's gonna be like all about portfolio and job performance. And like if you're near like a major city or something, I think a lot of college kids might not be aware of some of the things like the meetup scene that can actually help you build out that network and put you in front of companies that'll hire you. Like maybe you don't have to work 2 jobs because you can find a place that'll pay you enough. You know, doing something that's like more relevant to actual like career goals you might have. So like there's some ways that you can do these things for yourself, and not necessarily feel like you have to work at like Google to have made it.
Yeah.
But I think that's a problem with career undermatching, kind of what you were talking about, that like you can't be what you can't see. So if you have no professionals in your life, you don't know, so that all they see is Google, Facebook, and Twitter. So I think that's part of it too, is like how do we get more of our students I work with exposed to, Drupal and other smaller firms where they would have amazing growth opportunities and be really key members of a team potentially. That's kind of what I'm trying to.
Well, cool. Hey, well, thank you everybody for coming, participating. Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, awesome. Everybody be blessed. I'm gonna press this button. I think it's gonna end it.